Just like in the previous two worksheets, before we dive into the main subject, we're going to look at fractions. So this worksheet is going to focus on adding and subtracting rational expressions with common denominators. But before we dive into that, let's review just plain old fractions, okay? So steps for adding and subtracting fractions with common denominators. Now, you have to remember that when you're dealing with fractions, you can't add or subtract until you do have that common denominator. So we start with common denominators. We kind of learn how that works. Then we look into finding the LCD and equivalent expressions and so on. That'll be a different worksheet. But for now, as long as you have the same denominator, you add or subtract your numerators and you just put that over that common denominator and then you simplify. So this is completely different than multiplication and division. With multiplication and division, we simplified first, then we did the multiplication, okay? With addition and subtraction, you have to do the addition or subtraction first, and then you simplify last. That's just how it has to be. So one thing I'm commonly told by students is they know what they're doing, they just don't know when to do it. Well, if you don't know when to do it, you don't totally know what to do, okay? So you have to understand that with multiplication and division, you have to make sure everything's written as multiplication. You simplify, then you multiply. With addition and subtraction, it's backwards. You do the adding and subtracting, then you do the simplifying, okay? So symbolically, if we had A over C plus B over C, notice we have common denominators. That would be A plus B over C. Similarly, if we had A over C minus B over C, again, we have a common denominator. We just take A minus B and put it over that common denominator of C. So let's practice. So example 1 just says find each sum or difference, okay? So in part A, we have 9 over 28 plus 11 over 28. Notice we have a common denominator, so that allows me to say that this is 9 plus 11 over 28. Well, 9 plus 11 is 20, and then I get 20 over 28. And at this point, you have to reduce your fraction. You wouldn't want to reduce sooner if it was possible. In this case, neither of the two fractions could be reduced, but you wouldn't want to reduce then because once you reduce, you wouldn't necessarily have common denominators. That's why we have to make sure we reduce at the end. So now I have 20 and 28. I happen to know that 20 can be written as 4 times 5. 28 can be written as 4 times 7. So hopefully it's fairly easy to see that 4 divided by itself is just 1. So those 4s we say cancel, it just cancels to become a 1, and that leaves us with a final answer of 5/7. So 9/28 plus 11/28 is really 5/7. Okay? Part B, we have subtraction. So I have 16/25 minus 6/25. We want to make note that we do have a common denominator, first of all, and then we want to subtract the numerators. And then just keep the common denominator. You don't add or subtract your denominators, you just keep it as is. And then 16 minus 6 is 10. So I get 10 over 25. 10 can be written as 2 times 5. 25 can be written as 5 times 5. Hopefully you see that we have 5s in the top and the bottom. So this 5 cancels this 5, which really just means 5 divided by 5 is 1. So never forget that as mathematicians, we say cancel a lot. But we mean things cancel because they divide out to become 1 or they add or subtract to become 0. So here we're just left with 2 times 1 is the numerator, 5 times 1 is the denominator, and we can say that 16/25 minus 6/25 is equal to 2/5, okay? So make sure you always go back and remind yourself of how do these things work with fractions, because the steps are going to be the same. We just have to kind of take those steps with the basic fractions and incorporate them into this world of algebra, okay?